So here we are again, and I'm glad that it's so. Thank you for the privilege of once more being with you, wherever we are. I sometimes, when I'm in my office here at the seminary, or in my study at home, and perhaps I'm at a fallow point in work or thought, or perhaps just getting ready to get out of the chair, and I look for a moment at the books that are facing me, I find myself carried away just at the sight of the books. I was doing that today. I paused for just a moment, and it turned out to be 5 minutes, because I looked and I looked at those books on the shelf that I was facing. I knew that far off to my left were books that I had purchased, when I was still just turning 20 years old. So that's a while ago. And I had purchased them from a Methodist minister who was retiring that year, and he was disposing of his library. So, like many Methodist ministers, or like many ministers of any denomination, some of the books they have are especially books that they bought either early in their career or sometimes back in their days of college or seminary. That man, therefore, had in his library books that were still farther back, much farther back. I found myself thinking about those books and knew very well from looking at them in the past that some of them are dated in their original printing for the 1890s. That's over 100 years ago. And then I looked at other books that were there on the shelf, some of them from my own seminary days, which goes back a ways too, and some that I purchased 30 years ago, or 25, and then some that I purchased only in the last year or thereabouts. And I reminded myself of how scholars come and go, and how preachers and theologians come and go, and how some of those names that were epic names when I was young are completely forgotten now. And for that matter, I thought of the fact that some of the people that were important on the scene of scholarship or in the world of preaching just a decade ago, if you mention the name now, the new students coming along, the new students look at you blankly. They've never heard the name, though the name was in its rise and ascendancy 10 years ago. We dispose, of course, of personalities far more quickly now than we ever did in the past. We make people important very briefly and very quickly, and then we dispose of them just that quickly, not by any intention really, except that someone new appears on the scene and pushes them off, and the new person is there until they're pushed off. Well, I say all that to you to observe two things. On the one hand, there is something to be said for writing a book if you get a chance. I often say, only half jokingly, that I'm grateful that I've been privileged to write a number of books, especially in more recent years, because I know that probably 30, 40, 50 years after I'm gone, you'll still find them somewhere in somebody's garage sale or in somebody's yard sale, because people clear out what they've bought and they sell them to somebody else. And so somebody someday will pick up one of those books for a quarter, maybe, or maybe it'll be now near the end of that garage sale, and the person will say, you can have this whole bag of books for $1. And there in that bag of books will be something I've written. I'm glad that'll live on for a little while longer. But I ponder more than that, this great eternal fact that if we can make an impress on somebody's life, if we can reach into somebody's soul, that will last eternally. I'm grateful indeed that I have the books from long ago that people have written, to say nothing, of course, of classic things that we read in their reprints 15, 20 centuries later. But even the books that we bought 50 years ago, we still have a remembrance of those people. That's good. But that isn't as good as an impression you can make on somebody's soul, an impression that helps them to want God, to walk more closely with God, to accept Christ as Lord, to move on to a place, maybe, of holy and redemptive living. That's doing something that really lasts. I'll keep on writing books, the Lord willing, as long as the Lord will give me that ability and somebody to read them. I'll keep on preaching as long as the Lord gives me that authorization. But especially I hope that I can leave something that will bless somebody's life, because somebody, everybody, is eternal. So that's what I wish for you too, that you'll make your impression on somebody's soul. That's what's on my mind today. I'm glad I could say it to you. Thank you.